Good evening, everyone. Welcome to our Board of Selectmen meeting for April 25th, 2017. The time is 7:01. And before we begin our agenda, I'd like to welcome everyone to join us in the Pledge of Allegiance, please.
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay. So the first item we have on our agenda is a poll petition from National Grid and Verizon for 1593 Andover Street. Do we have any representatives here from Verizon or National Grid?
Yeah, you might. Thank you.
Can you state your name for the record, please?
My name is Dave Aguirre, and I'm representing National Grid. National Grid would like to install a pole on Andover Street, approximately 50 feet from pole 78 towards North Road, and that pole will feed the new businesses that are going on, or that one new business, I think it's a medical building, that's just across from that pole.
Actually, we have a public notice. I should read this out. You're hereby notified that a hearing will be held by the Board of Selectmen of the Town of Tewksbury in Selectmen's Main Town Hall at 1009 Main Street at 7 p.m. on Tuesday, April 25th, 2017, on a petition by National Grid and Verizon, New England, Plan number 224-04075, National Grid and Verizon, New England, to install a new pole in line to feed 1593 Andover Street. Okay, do we have any residents in the audience that are interested in this matter? Seeing none, I will turn it over to my board. Mr. Kelly, do you have any questions on this petition?
I don't.
You do not?
No, Mr. Chairman, this looks very straightforward to
I
me.
have no questions either, Mr. Chairman. I think that Dave explained it very well.
Okay, at this time, I'll entertain any motions on the item.
I will make a motion that we approve the Verizon Pool 224040075 as presented at 1593 Andover Street.
I'll second that, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, so we got a motion and a second. All who agree, please signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? The chair votes aye as well. That's unanimous. So,
Okay,
all set.
thank you. Thanks.
You can see the clock back there, but we have another one at 7:15. So the time we got here is 7:04. I guess we can get to the residence section of this. We have a residence. Is there any residents that have anything that would like come up before the board and present anything? Seeing none, we'll move on from the residence portion. Why don't we get to Mr. Montori? You think you can give us a quick update on the report on the violations for the package stores in the meantime?
Yes. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. At a previous board meeting, the board had hoped to schedule hearings for the package stores that were cited for violations of selling to minors. The notices and the information hadn't got sent out to the package stores, so we didn't have the hearings, obviously. We still would like to set up hearings for either May 16th, which is your next meeting, since we have town meeting next week, or June 6th. And if the board thinks it's okay, they could vote to set up the hearings on either one of those two dates, depending on how much time we need to give for notifications. I still need to talk to the police chief about the reports. I haven't had a chance to do that. So either one of those dates. I'll put both dates on the table, and we'll schedule it for one of those two.
I know we had conversations about looking into if the ABC had any other violations that we weren't aware of. Did we get any information back from the ABC on that?
Yeah, we haven't heard of any, and, but we'll follow up again. With the transition in the office from Helen Chambers to Janine, it's been kind of, Helen handled all the liquor license issues, so we're still trying to, put it all together, but we'll follow up again with that to make sure.
Okay, so do we need a motion to put it on?
Mr. Chairman, before you ask for a motion, if you don't mind, I want to ask through you, first of all, welcome to our new recording secretary.
Thank you.
But I don't know if you or perhaps she has the schedule for us for future meetings. Before I offer a motion, I just want to see if on either of those dates we have any hearings scheduled at 7 o'clock. That would be helpful to know.
Not really sure what we have scheduled for those 2 days. I don't happen to have the,
There's nothing in here on either.
No? Excellent. All right, thank you. So in light of that information, Mr. Chairman, I'll offer a motion. I believe there were 3 separate hearings that we need to schedule, if I recall correctly.
I think there's 4.
I thought there were 4.
4? Okay, I stand corrected. But I would ask, in the form of a motion, that we schedule the hearings on May 16 or June 6, following the town manager's discretion, in sequence starting at 7 p.m., 7:05, 7:10, and 7:15 p.m.
Okay, we have a motion. Do we have a second on that motion?
Second, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The chair says aye as well, and it passes. Okay. Let me see, still got 7:08. How about we can go to number 4? We'll move up to the disclosure by municipal employee. So in front of us, we have a disclosure by a municipal employee, Mr. Michael Merrill, who's a firefighter in town. I think he's been doing this for a number of years. He works snow and ice for us for Public Works during snow and ice season. And unless there's any questions or concerns, I'll take any.
Chairman, if I just may,
Yep.
Mr. Merrill, as you mentioned earlier, Mr. Merrill has been plowing snow for us for quite some time. For this past winter, he just forgot to get the information into us for his designation, so this designation is for the
Oh, for the
most
previous year?
recent snow season, not the future snow season, so.
Okay.
Once the board approves this, he'll be back for next year when we start, not to want to think about it, but next year's snow season.
Well, we need as many snow people as we can get out there. so.
Exactly.
All right, well, with that, unless there's any questions?
Just, Mr. Chairman, maybe through you to the town manager, in the context of what you were just describing, is there any way, I know we go through a review process where this form, the document, is reviewed by the DPW superintendent, and we have to certify that it's been publicly advertised and all of those steps. So is there a way to add an additional step in when there's a municipal employee that's known that this document is required before they, get paid for the first plow job, or, some...
He has not got paid, so it is.
He hasn't?
No.
No.
Wow. Okay, we're paying our bills quickly here, huh?
Yes.
All right.
Yes, so that's why he.
Yeah, so
That's
just,
what brought this to our attention, he had to get paid, and we said, you haven't been designated yet.
it's kind of, we should be doing this in September or October.
Oh, absolutely.
As opposed to April.
Yep.
Yeah, that's, I guess, if there's a way to build a safety net, it would help. And I don't think we have many of these, quite frankly.
No, I think he's one of the only ones, and I think he late in the game that he was gonna plow.
All right, thank you.
Mr. Chairman, similar to Mr. Johnson's comment, I believe that the town clerk put something in place for this because of an electoral thing. So whatever process she put in place for the electoral, maybe we can send that same process over to the DPW when they look at the snow removals, because I believe she
I'll find out what
addressed
that is,
that,
sure.
right?
I'll ask her.
When she came to us, we had a similar incident there. So, good point. With that, I will make a motion to approve the application as presented for the disclosure for the municipal employee of Mr. Merrill.
Okay, I have a motion. Do I have a second on that motion?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor, please signify by voting aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The chair votes aye as well, passing unanimously. All right, let's see how we are. We got 7:11.
Want me to do town council bills?
Yeah, that'd be good. We can get through those.
I'll go through as much as my report as I
Yeah.
possibly can in 4 minutes. There are 2 town council bills that need to be approved. The first is from March 1st through March 15th in the amount of $4,590, and I'd recommend approval.
Make a motion, Mr. Chairman, to approve the invoice dated March 22nd, 2017, the amount of $4,590.
Second, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, we got a motion and a second. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
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 Those opposed? Chair votes aye as well, so that passes unanimously.
There's another town council invoice for March 16th through March 31st in the amount of $3,442, and I'd recommend approval.
Mr. Chairman, I'll offer a motion to approve the invoice from Feely and Brown dated 4/8/17 in the amount of $3,042.50.
I'll second that.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor, please signify by stating aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The chair votes aye as well. That passes.
We have a senior town council invoice for the month of February in the amount of $6,285, and I would recommend approval.
I will make a motion to approve town council bill from Charles Arulis as presented for $6,285.
Do I have a second to that motion?
I'll second it.
Okay, so we have a motion and a second. All those in favor, please signify by stating aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Chair votes aye as well.
And then the final senior town council bill, or invoice for March is $7,510, and I would recommend approval.
Okay, do I have a motion on that?
I'll make a motion to approve that as presented by town manager.
Okay, we have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second, Mr. Chairman.
All right, so we have a motion and a second. All those in favor, please signify by stating aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The chair votes aye as well. All passes unanimously.
And do you want me to give an update on the regional communications?
We got 2 more minutes, why not?
Okay, it won't take long.
Schedule these things at 7:10.
I just wanted to give the board and the community an update on the Regional Emergency Communications Center, the Regional 911 facility that we are in the process of finalizing a designer contract. The Regional Communications Center has been a regional group of Drake and Tewksbury for Regional 911. We received funding from the state previously to undertake design, and they funded through a grant program the owner's project manager. We received grant approval for 50% of the construction, and there's a commitment from the state to fund the other 50% of construction, as well as the upgrades to our radio system, not only for the facility, but to our fire department, to our police department. We've been going through the process of hiring an architect for the facility. We interviewed 3 firms. We have finalized, or trying to finalize, a contract with the firm that was the top-rated firm in our interviews. Right now, that has to be confidential until we finalize a contract, but we're in the process of doing that. Once an architect is under contract, they'll start the design of the facility. That will probably take us to January of 2018 before they finalize design. Then we'll advertise for construction and hopefully break ground on a new facility sometime next spring, and the project will take about 18 months to construct. We have been working with other communities to see if other communities are interested in joining the regional communications facility, and we're fortunate enough to have the town of Pepperell vote unanimously over the past couple of weeks to join the facility, so that will bring it to 3 communities. The town managers of Drake and Tewksbury need to approve any additional communities coming in, and we're meeting on this Friday to do that. But I want to give the board an update that it's progressing along nicely. Having a third community in will allow us to access additional grant funding from the Commonwealth as the project moves forward and as the project becomes operational. And it will also allow us to reduce costs to both Drake and Tewksbury as we actually begin operations of the facility. So this was good news. We still hope to get more communities involved. NIMCOG's administering the project for us, and they've done a good job reaching out to other communities to see if they're interested, but we're excited about Pepperell. They're a community of approximately 15,000 people, so they're by no means a small community, so it will add to the size of our operation, and we're excited about it. We did have a meeting over the past month with the Secretary of Public Safety, just to give him an update of the project, and I will say that he's extremely excited about this facility and is very committed to not only providing us grant money for the construction, but making sure that we have the most updated state-of-the-art radio system for our fire and police departments, and as well as this facility. So I know the Commonwealth's very excited about this, as we are. So just wanted to give the board an update.
It's excellent news. Glad to hear that. Thank you, staff, and everybody for the work they've been putting into that. That's something that's great. I would like to see a couple more communities join us. I have a feeling they will once we start going, but.
I think you're right. I think as this progresses, I think people are going to start to want to get more involved.
So just a couple of questions, Mr. Chairman, through you to the town manager in that regard is, I know it's very early, you don't have building designs or anything at this point yet, but by adding a town like Pepperell in your initial thinking with the town of Drake, does it change the footprint of the building, or is there in your mind a point where we can manage to incorporate 3, 4, 5 towns before we have to get to another phase where the building needs to be rethought?
We plan the current facility to take at least one more community. And because of Pepperell's size, it may allow us to still take another community after that. Great. So we don't have to change the footprint at this point. But we always planned to build it with with having enough seats to handle a third community.
Excellent. Okay. And I'll echo Mr. Kratman's commentary about it is very good news. And I am thinking back to a meeting that we attended in Boston at the State House with the Secretary of Public Safety. And it's impressive to see the level of commitment by that agency and by that secretary to this effort, because I think they've stood by the process, and clearly the Commonwealth believes this is the future. So we're very fortunate, in my opinion, as a community to be ahead of the curve in addressing this issue, because I think that the ability to access grants and trigger some of the resources that we're going to need and have been promised thus far will not necessarily be available down the road for other communities. So very positive commitment, I think, that we continue to see evidence of on the part of the Secretary himself from the discussions I know I participated in with others here, but also the state in general. So good stuff.
Do we have any other comments from the board? Okay. Well, thank you for that update. Okay, we will move on now to agenda item number 2. We have, you can step up, please, if you would. We got a public notice. There's a notice given that the town of Tewksbury Board of Selectmen will conduct a public hearing on Tuesday, April 25th at 7:15 in the Town Hall, 109 Main Street, on the request of Diesel Motor Group LLC, DBA Tewksbury Auto Mall, 128 Main Street, by Silkline Kim, President, to transfer a Class 2 license to Route 38 Motors, 128 Main Street, Tewksbury, Mass. Input is welcome from the public. The Board of Selectmen recommends that comments be submitted in writing to the board in Town Hall at 10009 Main Street on or before Friday, April 21st. This notice is published in the Massachusetts Newspaper Publishers Association, MNPA website.
If I may, Mr. Chairman, before you start, I'm an abutter to this property, and even though I don't have the abutters list, I got the notice that they're, of the change of license, so I would like to recuse myself from these
Okay.
deliberations.
We will call you back in when it's over. Thank you. All right, well, welcome. Can you please introduce yourself?
My name is Tol Khan. I'm representing Route 38 Motors.
Okay. And so you're looking to transfer the license. It's, I know you, is the previous owner here? So-
Previous owners here, both parties
You
here.
want
Yeah.
to come up and join, so we're gonna... So this is just a transfer from one business over to another business?
Correct.
Correct, yes.
I do want to note that we did receive notification from the building department that today that they have met. We received, they inspected the above property a date and decided to clean up and discuss with the owner, and they have no issue with signing the transfer checklist. So we received that from the building commissioner. At this point, I will turn it over to the board. Are there any questions or concerns on the board?
Mr. Chairman, I do have a couple questions, just very briefly. I'm wondering if Mr. Kin can provide some background on just, have you been in the auto dealership business for a while? And
I have been. I've been in the business for close to 6 years. 2 years as a sales guy, and then I became a manager, and currently a manager, you know.
So will you own this particular dealership?
Correct.
Is this the first time you've been an owner?
First time. Correct. Yeah.
So you're taking on a big challenge.
Very excited. Thank you.
And just one thing I noticed on the application, I don't think it's critical, it just needs to be clarified. On question 1, the name of the concern you listed as Route 38 Motors LLC.
Correct.
And then on question 2, it asked if the above was an individual partnership or a corporation. And the answer was individual, but when I see LLC, I think of a corporation.
Corporation.
So I just wanted to verify, in fact, Route 38 Motors is a limited liability corporation?
It is a limited liability, correct.
So,
Thank you for clarifying that.
I just put in the record that question 2 should actually reflect that the entity is a corporate entity as opposed to an individual. And that's all I have, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. Mr. Stronach, any
I
questions?
had a similar question, and I just was, the other thing was were the abutters notified, but obviously they were if Mr. Gay has recused himself, so I am comfortable with this application as it's presented. Thank you.
Okay. Mr. Kelly?
No questions, I'm comfortable as well.
Okay, well, I have no questions. I've actually been by the location because I did understand that there was some issues out there. I drove by, it seems like the location has been cleaned up quite a bit. It looks wonderful out there right now. Still need some tender love and care, but I'm sure as you get going, hopefully that'll be, the place will be made a little bit nicer to bring people in there, and I'm wishing you the best, so. At this
What's that?
point, I'll listen to any motions.
Before I offer a motion, Mr. Chairman, it is a public hearing, so I don't know if there are any residents.
Oh, sorry, yes. Are there any, I should have asked that. Is there any residents that would like to speak on this matter? Seeing none?
Okay, so
Now,
in light of that, I'll offer a motion to approve the transfer as presented.
I have a motion to approve. Do I have a second?
I'll second that.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor, please state by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? Chair votes aye as well. So, we,
Mr. Chairman?
yes.
I was going to bring this up in my board meeting, but I think the time is a little bit appropriate now, and I'd like to give this, the Small Business Association is doing a presentation here on May 8th about growing your small business.
Awesome.
So I'd like to give you this flyer. In case you're interested, but, yeah,
Okay.
thank you for
All
remembering.
right, so let the record show that it was 4-0, and Mr. Gay recused himself from this. All right, you're all set. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, thank you. Thank you.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Okay. So at that point, we are to the point of review of our annual and special town warrants. What I would like to do is, seeing that we have some people in the room, I'm going to ask that we're going to move to a couple of article warrants up, if that's okay with everybody. I'm going to go to, let's see. First article I'd like to bring up is Article 28. So I would like to see if that was presented by Mr. Joe Gill and others. If you would come up to speak on it, please.
Good evening, everybody.
Good evening.
My name is Joe Gill, 12 Ellington Road. I'm here requesting the Board of Selectmen's support and reinstituting the printing and mailing of the warrant articles for town meetings. In 2010, that requirement to print and mail was suspended due to the fiscal priorities that were going on in our plight. It seems that the time has come now to reinstate that. The citizens of the town deserve to know what their government is doing. I would hope you'd support the article.
And I don't think you need an introduction, but could you give your name and?
Sure. My name is Elizabeth Carey, 50 Langley Lane, and I'm in support of this article. I helped to write it. I think it's important. It's time to bring it back. It's time to give the town voter, the residents, more information than we are giving them now. It's very difficult for them to come in at town meeting, be handed a warrant, and try to absorb all that's going on. And not only that, trying to absorb each warrant article, but when amendments are offered, it gets very confusing to them. We're kind of like, we know, we've been around the block a few times, you people, Joe and I. So we know the routine. But when you have voters out there, it's very difficult for them to put it all together. So we think with this warrant article, we'll help them. We'll help them be better educated on what's going on in the town, knowledgeable, and make wise decisions for our town. The budget, we know the budget is very confusing, but the budget, the last few times I've seen any debate on it has been somebody asking a question. Nothing about the monetary value of it. They respect what the department heads and the town manager and the Board of Selectmen have done to compose their budget. But when you get into the other articles, it gets very difficult for them to understand, especially when we say we're going to transfer from the stabilization fund, we're going to transfer from overlay, we're going to do this, we're going to do that. They get very confused. So if they had the opportunity to read the warrant article prior to town meeting, at home, at their leisure time, after they've done their children's homework, put their children to bed, you can sit down with a glass of wine and go over the budget. But I just feel badly for them coming into town meeting, and I'm going to naked with nothing. And then we hand them on these papers, we hand them the Finance Committee recommendation, we hand them the Planning Board recommendations. And a lot of work has gone into that. But if they had that information prior to town meeting, I think they would be fairly more comfortable at town meeting. And we're talking about, let's see, we're talking about $103 million plus budget. We're talking about a stabilization fund in the millions. We're talking about community preservation, monetary actions. That's a lot for them to absorb 5 minutes before they come into town meeting. So I just think I feel it's my responsibility to bring it forward so that these people will be able to make very good decisions for our town. So, and I do have one thing. By the way, I did see the legal notice, and if I may bring in Article 11 and Article 10, 11, and 12, just so you can make a note of it. Article 10 just is not enough for, it says transfer $850,000 from the stabilization fund to new bleachers at Doucette Field. There's more to that article than the bleachers. And when you look at Article 10, you will see that. Also, in Article 11, it says transfer. Article 12, it says transfer. But in the warrant, Article 11 says raise and appropriate. So it kind of, you know what I'm saying, I was a little confused. So I think we would want to correct that for the voter. But anyways, the bottom line is to make the voter come into town meeting a little more relaxed and being able to make wonderful decisions for our town, rather than here, out on the street. Did you hear about Article 10? Did you hear about Article 23? And it's all anxiety. And we don't need anxiety at town meeting. We need people to come in with a clear head. And so I'm asking your support for this article, to have the warrants mailed.
Mr. Chairman, if I may briefly say, we're not kidding ourselves when we say that this may bring out more people at town meeting. We know town meeting is ill-attended, but it's very important whether the voters come to town meeting or not, that they become knowledgeable on what's going on in town. And another thing you got to take into account, there are an awful lot of people moving in to the town who came from cities that have no idea what this is about. And it's very, very important that we introduce them, that you know, how town meeting is run and what town meeting consists of. And I'd appreciate your support.
Okay, at this point, I will open it up to the board. Anybody has any questions?
Sure, Mr. Chairman, I just through you to the town manager. What's the current way that we communicate with people? I believe it's through the website, and they're available at Town Hall now?
Yeah, it's a couple of ways. First of all, the bylaw requires a summary to be put into the newspaper 14 days in advance, which we did. And Mrs. Carey, I appreciate you pointing out those 2 items. That was an error that got by us. So that's one way. We also send out notification to anybody that's signed up on the website to receive notification that the warrant is available.
Are hard copies available here?
And, yep, we have hard copies available at the town hall, the senior center, the library, and at the annex. And anybody who wants one mailed to them, we will mail it. We actually keep a list of people each year that want it mailed, and we'd automatically mail it out. It goes out on Twitter and other social media, so
What's the lead time that they're available for hard copies for people to look at?
it's about 14 days in advance.
Okay.
As soon as it gets posted, which is 14 days in advance, they're available that day.
Yep, and I know Mr. Gill just referred to the cost from before. Do you have an estimate what the cost would be?
The cost is, we had a printer look at a cost of I think the last warrant that went out, which was about 44 pages for the annual and maybe 12 for the special, and it was about a little over $16,000 for a year for sending those out. But, you know, it varies in the number of pages each year, so I think based on what other towns are spending, it's probably closer to $20,000 a year to send it out, but it's just going to depend on the size of the warrant and what we send out.
Okay, thanks for the clarification.
Are there any other comments? Ms. Stronach?
So I would like to say two things. First of all, I looked at this article, and I am very much in favor of getting as much information to residents as possible. And I agree with Mr. Gill when he says that he doesn't believe that this is going to necessarily increase our participation at town meeting. I had asked the town manager other options in terms of how we communicate rather than giving the whole warrant. But your argument that you just stated in terms of giving newer residents who may not be familiar with town meeting forum is very important to me. I do remember when I first moved here, I did come from the city, and I remember the first couple of times I got the warrant, I didn't even look at it. And it wasn't after I kept seeing it show up in my mailbox saying, what is this thing? Because at the time I didn't have, I was more of a, I was commuting. I was going into Boston every day and wasn't really vested in the town. But having that thing show up in my mailbox, and it wasn't until you just made that comment that it triggered. So I had asked the town manager, and he did present to us all with other options in terms of a postcard, but given that argument, I think you have a very good point, and I would support this article. I do think that we need to do something, whether it be a postcard, but you might be right about getting people to understand what town meeting is. We're seeing more and more new residents wanting to participate in our committees, in our boards. We're seeing new faces that are just moved into the community like 2 and 3 years. So I don't think it's such a bad thing to mail it out. And I realize that the cost of $20,000 is a significant amount of money, but talking about the larger percentage of the budget, I think maybe it is a valuable point. So I will be supporting this article as presented.
Thank you. Mr. Johnson?
Yeah, I'll offer some comments. First of all, I agree with everything that was stated, which after you hear my view on it, it will be kind of ironic, but I don't disagree with any of the points that were made, and I think the overarching principle of giving information to our residents is absolutely essential for the town to function properly. And like Mrs. Stronach mentioned, I've looked at the data that's been provided. So I appreciate Mr. Gill's comment that if this article was designed to increase attendance at town meeting, I think that's an effort that is destined to fail, because we know that pre-2010, when warrants were mailed, and post-2010, when they were not, the attendance at town meeting has been fairly consistent year over year, with obviously those exceptions when there's a big issue or something dramatic that's taking place. So as I looked at the numbers, we would be mailing out about 11,000 warrants for May, and another 11,000 in October, so 22,000 roughly a year. And on average, I'm just rounding numbers off in a ballpark fashion, we're talking about 250 attendees at a town meeting typically. So I'm one of the 250, and I think almost everyone in this room is in that category, to your point. We all kind of know the game and how it unfolds. But to that point, if I did my math correctly, that would mean that I would get or have access to, as a participant, literally 44 town meeting warrants at the annual, and another 44 for me to sit in the room and participate in October. And obviously, I don't need 44 warrants, but that is the equivalent because we have so many people who don't participate in the process. And the cost of that, in my mind, when you start to talk about $20,000, I've been here like Mrs. Stronach and Mr. Gay for some time, and we have wrestled with making cuts across the board. We've wrestled with, reductions in force. We've wrestled with closing the library on the weekends. We've wrestled with all the fire station at South Fire being closed for part of the year. So to me, $20,000 is not something to take lightly. And that cost is something that I'm very much concerned about in relative to the return on investment. So while I totally agree with the goal, my conclusion was something as an interim step, a middle ground approach. So I know that there have been discussions about using a postcard system, or you mentioned or showed us a few moments ago, Mrs. Carey, the tombstone ad that's required currently under the bylaw. And by the way, that's a very expensive item. We ought to be considering eliminating that as a potential option, because in all my life, I don't recall ever reading a tombstone ad. Very expensive area where the newspapers are making a killing, and you have to wonder if that actually is effective anymore. So just another piece of the equation, but maybe a format that's 1 or 2 pages that summarizes the warrant, as opposed to, in this case, maybe a 30-page warrant that goes out that drives the postal expense relative to this particular issue. So I'm thinking about it from trying to find a way to accomplish the goal of informing people, but also kind of being responsible with respect to the cost associated with providing a lot of paper to many, many, many people who don't participate. And that concerns me. Unfortunately, we live in a world here that town meeting gets to decide. So my view on it really is not that critical in the equation, because those who do take the time and educate themselves and participate in the process will hopefully show up next week, and they have the last word. So I'm happy about that, and that's obviously why this whole system that we have is constructed to give people that last word. But I'd rather see us focus on a middle ground approach, and a way to get to keeping the principle behind it without the burden of the expense and the waste of the paper and notification to people who don't want it. For example, we have a code red system here in Tewksbury. It's an opt-in system. We had to work hard to notify residents. I remember speaking about this subject meeting after meeting after meeting to continue to notify people of the availability. And they, over time, have opted into that system to be notified. So I kind of look at this from the standpoint of an analogy of if we were to be more deliberate about an opt-in system where they could be emailed, for example, or we create a master list where residents have the ability to say, I want to be on a permanent list to receive the warrant. And as new residents come into town, we should welcome them. We should give them the choice and inform them of that right away, so they know. And I think there's ways that we can get to a solution that meets the goals that residents like the two of you, who I hold in high regard, we can meet those goals together. So I just see this as a little bit extreme in my mind without taking an interim step first. I'd like to try that, and if it didn't work, it didn't meet our goals, from where I sit, my preference would be that this would be the next step, not the one that we take in the next few days. That's just my thinking. I know there's plenty of room to disagree and have a different perspective on it, but I felt compelled to put that out there.
Mr. Kelly?
I think you presented a sound business case. I myself am a paper guy. There's an awful lot in here, like you stated. I mean, we're talking a lot of dollars. I think it's pennies on the dollars to get that out there, so I'm in full support, so thank you.
Is there anything else you'd like to add?
Mr. Chairman, can I make a comment on what Mr. Johnson spoke about? I equate ourselves to a $100 million corporation. And that corporation is required to send their shareholders, our taxpayers, a copy of what's going on in the company and what they think is going to go on or want to go on in the next fiscal year. So I think it's very important that, like a corporation that has to send annual reports to their shareholders, that the town of Tewksbury send their shareholders, i.e. the taxpayer, a copy of what we propose to do for the year. Whether or not they're going to come to town meeting, we know the vast majority aren't going to come to town meeting, but they'll still be informed. And I think that's very, very important. And all we're doing is asking to return where we used to be for a millennium in this town. And, it was agreed to forego the printing and the mailing of the warrant articles during the hard fiscal times. Well, we're obviously coming out of it. And so I just request that we go back.
Well, I have a few comments also. After the last couple of elections, I was a little discouraged that some of the, listened to the conversations that were going on in the town about confusion about what some of the warrant articles were. It was to the point comical on some of them, where people would be going out and saying, I'm not voting for this because this is going with that, or this, it had nothing to do with it. Yeah, but, once it's, people, it was hearsay. Once again, you hear people going around, one person says it, nobody sees it in writing, and then it just goes and it snowballs. So this is what some of the things go on. We had a couple of articles that I think would have passed if we could have got some more information out to the residents, and unfortunately, that didn't happen. So anything that can get a better educated resident to come to town to vote on things, I'm in favor of. I do agree with Mr. Johnson on some of the points that the cost, $20,000 is a lot of money to be spending, and I understand that. I'll give it to the board to let them, to vote on this, but it's just, we have to do something. We got to get more residents out there. We got to get more people involved. One thing I am encouraged about, which all the board members here will know, is that as we've been having appointments for different committees, we've had multiple new residents coming and trying to get involved. So that's very encouraging. As we have people coming in all the time, and it just seems like it's a new group of people that are coming in, and they're not just moving in and paying no attention to what's going on. They are getting involved. They're signing up for all kinds of committees, and we've got some real good talent of young people that just came in that wanted to get involved, and it was encouraging to have them get involved. And so if we can get some more people out there, this is a lot of money to be spending. I mean, I know during tough times, during good times, $20,000 is a lot of money. I wouldn't want to be spending $20,000 out of my pocket if I didn't think I was going to accomplish something. But this is, up to the residents. They're going to have the final say at this town warrant. But
Agree.
with that said, I'll listen to any motions from the board at this time.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion to support Article, I moved my page, 28, thank you very much. 28 as presented.
Do I have a second to that motion?
I have a second.
Second? Okay. All those in favor, please state by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed?
I'm opposed to that, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. The record show we have I agree with that, so we have a 4-1 vote on that, please. And the article passed.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. It's a recommendation.
Okay, I'm going to skip next to see, Mr. Sadler, you come up, please?
Good evening. Article 33 is the moratorium for recreational marijuana establishments. This article was submitted by the town manager, but I myself worked on this moratorium article, and it was based on the West Bridgewater moratorium that was put in place, reviewed by the Attorney General's office, and approved by the Attorney General's office. And there were some footnotes within that approval by the AG's office. Senior Town Council and I worked through those different items, and so the product that's before you, Article 33, is actually the West Bridgewater model corrected to the AG's corrections. And this is no different than what we did when medical marijuana dispensaries were approved. The town instituted a moratorium, and that moratorium lasts for a period of time. In this instance, we'd be running it out to December of 2018. And during that time period, when you're in a moratorium, you have to show that you are actually planning and working towards coming out of that moratorium with a product that's going to address the statute that was approved. Since the state has not come up with the regulations on this yet, we're kind of going to put ourselves in a wait-and-see mode as the state develops the criteria that they're going to use for these establishments. And we will be working, just like we did with medical marijuana, with both the police department and the Board of Health during the time period that we craft a bylaw that will address recreational marijuana. So, in this instance, the article is all based on what was approved by the Attorney General's office with both Town Council and I working on this.
Thank you. Okay, at this point, I'll turn it over to the board. Do we have any questions from the board?
I do. First of all, thank you for putting this together. I think that something like this, given all of the concerns regarding this actual action in terms of the state and what's going to happen at the federal level, et cetera, I am very pleased to see something like this presented. Have you brought this forward to the any other boards besides the Board of Selectmen? I'm thinking, has the Board of Health weighed in? Have we?
But being that it's a moratorium and it was preventing any type of establishment, I didn't believe that it was necessary at this time. Like I said, with the dispensaries, when we developed the current bylaw that we have on the books for medical marijuana, we did have Board of Health input, and that would be the plan going forward for dealing with recreational marijuana.
So when we're developing our plan, they will be
Correct.
involved in that?
Correct.
Just not involved in
Yep.
this? Okay,
Yep.
thank you so much.
Mr. Johnson, any questions?
No questions.
Mr. Gay?
Nope, no question, thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Kelly? Okay, at this time, I'll listen to any motions from the board.
Make a motion to recommend adoption of Article 33.
Second.
There was a motion and a second. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
And the chair says aye as well. That passes 5-0. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, we have Article 34 and 35 in front of us, but last night I attended the planning board meeting, and I was there when the applicants withdrew their applications for this. So I don't believe that we have to make any action, take any action on this. So, okay. So Articles 34 and 35 were withdrawn by the applicant.
Mr. Chairman, just as a point of clarification, I have a question for you. While they may have been withdrawn before the planning board, they still would have to be withdrawn at town meeting if my
Correct.
recollection is correct. So I do think the board needs to take some position on it as opposed to just ignoring the two articles.
planning, I don't know if the planning board took any action, correct?
Took no
So
action
you
on
can't defer to them, would be difficult.
it. It was withdrawn, and so because it was withdrawn, they just took no action on it.
Could we, I'd like to make a motion to defer to the applicant for Article 34 and 35.
I'll second that.
I would just caution my colleagues that if the applicant were to change his or her position, that would bind this board to whatever that person decided to do. I would prefer, I'll offer a second, a different motion to table the matter to town meeting to confirm the status of the two articles.
I will withdraw my motion based on Mr. Johnson's motion.
Okay, well, we have a second motion to table until the town meeting. Do I have a second on that?
I'll second that.
Okay, so we have a motion and a second for Articles 34 and 35. All those in favor, please state by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Chair votes aye as well, so that passes 5-0 on both articles. Okay. The next article we have is Article 36.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. I hope I have the number right, that I'm number
No,
36.
This one's for Mr. Endow.
I jumped in at the wrong number. So with that,
Jumped in and I was just gonna.
I'm just warming up the seat for Mr. Andela, that's all.
So this one is for Mr. Andela, this is Article 36.
I'm confused too, Counselor.
Mr. Chairman, board members.
Can you just state your name?
Sure, my name is James Andela, Article 36. On the one article that I passed in, there's a Scribner error in the executive summary, it says East Street. It should say Assel Street and Main Street. So I just figured I'd bring that up to you at this point.
Okay, we'll have that noted.
So currently, this land's zoned commercial, and we're trying to rezone to community village overlay district. And I went to the planning board last night, and it was this interesting event. They had no recommendation. They had a, I don't know, Mr. Chairman was there. I don't know, I think you might have been there the whole time or not, but it just, it went back and forth, and they came up with no recommendation. So, it's zoned commercial currently. If we rezoned it to the overlay district, it could bring a tax revenue up to $180,000 compared to whatever could go there in commercial, $40,000, $50,000. It is on the entryway of the town, a gateway. It's right there at the Highway 495, Walmart. It's in a pretty much mixed-use area now. There's a lot of houses there, and there's a lot of business there. So I just, and of course, there's public transportation there, the buses. The parcel's 3.125 acres. It could be 3 one-acre lots for 3 strip malls. I'm trying to open up the smart growth system. If we kept it together, 1 curb cut, not 3 curb cuts. So I just come to the board and see if I could get your support or endorsement at town meeting.
All right, at this point, I will open it up to the board.
Yes, thanks, Mr. Chairman. I just need a little bit more clarification. What is the end result of what this is, what you're trying to put there? I guess I'm not clear on that.
Well, that was a big thing at town, at planning board last night. I showed them a conceptual plan, and it just went back and forth to board members that we shouldn't have one, we should have one. Basically, we're going here for the idea of rezoning it. And then you go to the board and do it is in the zone that's allowed.
But I understand what the confusion was. I'm just trying to understand what type of business, what type of building is gonna, what type of structure is gonna go that you're planning on putting there ultimately.
Well, I started out with one big store, and after talking to certain people, and it was like a medium box store, size store. And it's the gateway, and it would be a lot prettier if it was like basically I thought about the Metro Credit Union down there at the end of Victor Drive, something like two of those little banks, but not exactly, but in that style. And then way out back, I was going to try to put housing. So, but that's what it was, going to put, but
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Kelly?
Was it the planning board's recommendation to come back with more concrete plans? Is that-
no, it was, went back and forth between the board that they just wanted, they didn't want plans, and then it's not required. It's a thing that usually people want to see a plan, or at least a conceptual plan, and for some reason last night, there was different feelings about it.
I'm still just unclear as to why there was no recommendations. I mean, is that something we can follow up with the planning board as to why?
Well, I'll just pipe in as one. I was at the meeting, and the article itself is not for development, is what they were stating. They do not want to have something going to the residents that it appears that they are endorsing a type of plan that's going out there. This article was strictly for rezoning. It's not to endorse or not endorse a development. And there was a plan that was submitted, which they believe may have got out to the public. And if that is, when the residents are looking at that, they may be looking at this article saying that's what's going to be going in there, where the planning board has not agreed to it, not reviewed it, not looked at it. So that's something that has nothing to do with this article. The article itself states for rezoning the land. It has nothing to do with the development. So there was a plan put together to try to, I think, to the applicant's point, he was just trying to show what could go in there. But the planning board was a little concerned that if this goes out, everybody would think that's what was going to go in there. And there is no, if this gets rezoned, there's no guarantee that that is going to be built. So they didn't want to have people say, rezone it to this certain thing and expect that to be built, because it's not been reviewed. There's no plans, there's no review of what's going on. There was some conversation that they didn't even like the plan of the way it was, if they were to review it. Not that they were, but immediately there was a number of them saying, I can't see myself approving this if this was to go through, with the way it was going with the driveway and the where it was coming out on 38, going into 2 open lanes and those type of things. But that's what happened. It went back and forth and back and forth and they finally got to the point where we shouldn't even be discussing this plan. This article is specifically about zoning, and that's all you should be talking about. So it shouldn't be talking about a plan or a design, or what could go in there or what might go in there. It's about, do we want to rezone this property for this type of use? And that's where it pretty much came down to. It's difficult for anybody who knows this location. It's, there's, difficult turns as you go up those streets up onto Astle. There's 2 streets as they go in, there's an intersection there that's very difficult to maneuver. That portion of Route 38 was just resurfaced, where they did a couple of widenings out there, so now there's 2 lanes in one direction and 1 lane in the other, so has been reconfigured out there, and so if you were to put a driveway off of 38 to come into that could cause some concerns, but that's, once again, that has nothing to do with what he's asking. The plan, the article itself is to talk about zoning, not to talk about what could or what might or how they'll even get it in there. So that's where it came back to. So it went back and forth for quite a while, and then they could not come to an agreement that they agreed to that. Any other comments or questions?
I have none.
Okay, well, at this portion, I'll ask for a motion on this item. Anybody?
I'd make a motion, well, just further clarification. We don't need to talk about what would potentially go in there, but this would open the door to have those next discussions as to what may or may not go in there based on the zoning, based on the overlay district, correct?
Yes, sir.
So what is your motion that you are putting forward? Is it a motion to approve, or is it
I would make a motion not to approve based on the planning board's no recommendation to proceed at this time.
I'll second that motion.
so, is that
No recommendation.
no action to be
Correctly.
taken? No action to be taken on this? Okay, so I got a motion, and a second.
Mr. Chairman, just, I want to be clear that, on what motion's being made, because no recommendation is not voting against, it's taking no position.
Yeah.
Right.
So before I vote, I want to be clear on what the motion is, so maybe you could repeat the
I
motion.
stand corrected for no recommendation
Yeah.
based on Article 36.
So would that be clarified to be taking no action on this matter? Is that?
The motion is no recommendation.
Correct.
So
Yeah,
that's
so that's
how I
good.
heard the motion.
That's the motion.
Okay,
And that's what my second was.
so we get a motion and a second to make no recommendation on this. Okay, all those in favor? Aye. Aye. All opposed? Okay, the motion is unanimous.
Thank you.
Okay, now we're getting to Article 37. Mark it if you would.
As Yogi Berra said, this is like deja vu all over again. So, good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. Here with the article requesting a proposed amendment to the zoning map. This parcel is 940 Main Street. It's the Foster School project. This got the unanimous support of the planning board last night. Oh, I'm sorry, David Plunkett, 257 Fifth Street, Tewksbury, and
John D. Sullivan, 940 Main Street, Apartment 2.
so this is a situation where the property was conveyed over to JDS Enterprises LLC back in 2000, and it's been used for non-municipal purposes since that point in time. We had come forward with some plans to do some alterations and development of an adjoining site where it was determined that for some reason this site retained its municipal zoning. planning board about 10 years ago had gone through and we looked at every site in town, and this must have been one that was missed. So, the purpose was to try to make certain that use coincided with the actual zoning. So this may be the one spot in town that missed the oversight of that committee, but that's what we're dealing with. So it's more of a housekeeping measure to just have the the zoning map change to reflect what the actual use is, which would be commercial use, in line with all other non-municipal sites along the Route 38 corridor.
Thank you. Okay. At this time, I'll turn it over to the board. Do we have any questions from the board?
I guess my first cut at it, since the planning board unanimously approved it,
Yes.
I would be more comfortable deferring to the planning board rather than making a recommendation for adoption.
Making a motion?
I'll make that in this form of a motion to defer to the planning board.
Okay, we got a motion to defer to the planning board. Do I have a second on that?
I'll second that, Mr. Chairman.
Second. Okay, those in favor, please state by saying aye. Any opposed? No? And the chair votes aye as well. 5-0, defer to the planning board.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, now we're gonna go back to the beginning of our articles. Get myself in order here. Okay, Article 1, this, I guess we've already done, was to election for the town offices. I don't know if we don't have to make a motion on that, because it's already happened. So Article 1, it's already gone, okay? The second article is the purpose of this article is to fix the salaries for certain elected officials in the town, for elected town officials. Unless I have any questions, I'll listen to any motions on this article.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion to recommend adoption of Article 2.
Second,
Second, okay. All in favor, please signify by stating aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, Article 2 passes 5-0. Okay, Article 3. We have, oops, hold on one second. That's the wrong one here. Okay, we got Article 3.29. The purpose of this article is to accept a report of various town offices which are in the 2060 town report located on the town website. Tewksbury, Mass. Board of Selectmen pages annual town report. Most of the time, I'll take a motion on that.
Move to recommend adoption, Mr. Chairman.
A second.
We got a motion, we got a second. All those in favor, please state by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? Okay, that passes. Article 3.30, this article is acted annually and allows the town manager to lease purchase equipment for various town departments, subject to annual appropriation.
Move to recommend adoption, Mr. Chairman.
Do we have a motion? Do I have a second on
Second,
that?
Mr. Chairman.
Second. All those in favor, please state by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Chair votes aye as well. That passes 5-0. Article 3.31. Each year, the state indicates the amount that is allotted to cities and towns for road work under Chapter 90. This article authorizes the town to spend these funds. This time, I'll listen to any motions.
Make the motion to approve recommendation.
Okay, so we got a motion from Ms. Stronach. Do I have a second?
I'll second the motion to recommend adoption.
Okay, a second from Mr. Johnson. Any, all those in favor, please state by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? Chair votes aye as well. Passes 5-0. Article 3-32. This article authorized the fiscal year 2018 expenditure cap on the town's self-sufficient revolving fund accounts for the items listed above in the town of Tewksbury. This article is in addition to the article which establishes revolving funds through general bylaw in accordance with recent changes to Mass General Law, Chapter 44, Section 53E and a half, by the Act of the Modernized Municipal Finance and Government. This time I'll listen to any motions on that.
I'll make a motion to recommend adoption of this article.
Motion from Ms. Stronach. Do I have a second?
Second, Mr. Chairman.
Second by Mr. Gay. Okay, all those in favor, please state by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Chair votes aye as well. 5-0. Okay, on to Article 4, operating budget. Purpose is the articles to fund various department budgets for fiscal year 2018. Mr. Montori would like to state anything on this?
Just quickly, Mr. Chairman, thank you. Just wanted to mention that the budget for FY '18 is being proposed at $102,953,736. It's an increase over the previous fiscal year of approximately $1.9 million. And the Finance Committee finished up their budget review and process a couple of weeks ago. They'll be having their public hearing on the budget tomorrow night, as well as other warrant articles at 7 p.m. here in the Town Hall. There seem to be no issues with the budget as presented.
Do I have any comments from fellow selectmen here?
I'll make a motion to adopt Article 4.
Okay, we have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second to recommend adoption of Article 4.
Selectman Gay. Okay, those in favor, please state by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Chair votes aye as well, passes 5-0. Article 5, this purpose of this article is to fund the sewer enterprise fund for fiscal year 2018. Mr. Montori?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This appropriates the budget for the sewer enterprise fund in the amount of $5,614,274. The funding has been incorporated into the rates that we discussed at a previous board meeting. The sewer rates are not going up, and this funds the expenses for salaries, operating, capital outlay, Lowell Sewer and Reserve Fund, as well as indirect costs.
Can you state that again, the sewer rates are not going up? I'd love to hear that.
Sewer rates are not going up.
That's something wonderful to hear. Okay.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
While I appreciate that the sewer rates are not going up, I do want to just mention to residents that we have changed the way that we're calculating them. So we'll be going to that zero, so their bills will look a little different this year, but their rates themselves are not going up. But they will be going back to zero every single time they receive
They
every
will reset.
quarter.
The usage will reset, yes.
So I just want people to be aware of that.
With that, I think that's going to help a number of people. I've had a number of people come to me with where they just had something happen where, summertime, drought last year, somebody has a leak in their home, which so they don't have to pay for it the whole year, so they don't get to that higher rate. So I like the way that we move to the zero each time. So this way, if there is some sort of problem, they don't have to pay for it for the whole year. It just, during that one-time period, that there's something could be rectified. So that's, I
Agreed.
like that, the way it's set up. Do I have any other comments on the board? This time, then I'll take a motion.
Recommend adoption, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, we have a motion to recommend. Do I have a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor, please state by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? The chair votes aye as well. It's 5-0. Okay, Article 6. The purpose of this article is to fund the Water Enterprise Fund for fiscal year 2018.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This is the Water Enterprise Fund, and we're asking the town meeting to approve raising and appropriating $7,023,596, which is the Water Enterprise Fund for fiscal 2018. That covers salaries, expenses, capital outlay, reserve fund, and debt service, as well as indirect costs. This, again, has been built into the water rates for FY18, and water rates also did not increase. And just to follow up on what Mrs. Stronach said earlier, the structure of the rates and their tiers have changed to reset usage every billing cycle, but rates have not gone up.
Excellent.
Mr. Chairman, before I offer a motion, I think there's a Scribner's error in here. I just want to clarify with the town manager. The header on the bottom third should be projected water revenue, not sewer revenue. Am I right on that?
That is correct.
So you want to correct that, but with that minor error, I would make a motion to recommend adoption of the Article 6.
Okay, I got a motion to recommend with the change to the scrivener's error. Do I have a second to that?
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor, please state by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Chair votes aye as well. That passes 5-0. Thank you. Article 7. The purpose of this article is to fund the Cable TV Enterprise Fund for fiscal year 2018.
This article is a new article for fiscal 18. The town adopted to create a cable enterprise fund for cable television a year ago, but we never formally adopted a budget. So Article 7 now formally adopts a cable TV enterprise budget in the amount of $600,000 for expenses only. This is what we project to collect in revenue from the Verizon and Comcast franchise fees that we collect each year. The reason why it's in the expense column and not salaries, we anticipate that when the Cable Television Committee presents its findings and report to the Board of Selectmen, that something separate from a town department will be formed and expenses will be needed for that. So that's why we did it this way. If in fact we need to adjust for salaries, we can move that money at a later date.
Do I have any questions from the board?
Just for clarity's sake, Mr. Chairman, Mr. Montori, if you could just maybe a little bit of history. These funds historically were in the general fund. We took some steps in the last couple of years to pull them out, but maybe just touch briefly, if you would, on the background behind that.
Sure. Previously, the revenue from cable TV franchise fees from Verizon and Comcast went into the general fund and helped fund the town budget. That's not a proper way of handling those funds. Department of Revenue has been very clear that any revenue in our contracts with the cable providers are very clear that any revenue that we take in must go back into cable television operations. So over the last few years, we've been slowly reducing that amount until we finally took it completely out of our revenue stream. And it will go into this particular enterprise fund to solely support cable television efforts.
Thank you.
Do I have any other questions?
Just a clarity point. I have gone to a couple of the meetings of this committee, and they are doing excellent work. And I know that this has been a long time coming, and I'm sure that people like Mr. Johnson and Mr. Gay can say that we've been talking about this for many, many years. But when you're saying that the expenses are outside of the town, that is because that is the way this project is typically set up. It's not something that, because of the nature of the cable TV, that the town wants to almost have liabilities. I don't know if that's the correct word, but if you could just speak to a little bit more why it's outside of the town, so people understand that we're not trying to fund something inappropriately, but that is the way that it works.
Well, depending on what the final recommendations come back as, one of the options would be to set up a very separate and distinct entity, a nonprofit, so to speak,
Right.
Similar to other communities where they have a cable access television board of directors and entity that operates cable television, not as a town function or a town department. So you have that that line between, what is on cable television and what is regulated by, say, the government. So most towns keep it very separate, and I'm anticipating that may be the way we go. I can't speak for the committee, but in anticipation of that, that's why we put it into expenses, because we would just end up spending that money or provide that money to the entity to run the operations through an agreement.
Thank you, I appreciate the explanation. The words were of nonprofit were eluding my brain.
Yeah.
All right, do I have any other questions or comments from the board?
I'll offer a motion, Mr. Chairman, to recommend adoption of Article 7.
Okay.
Second that, Mr. Chairman.
Got a motion and a second. All those in favor, please state by saying aye.
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 Those opposed? I vote aye as well, so that carries 5-0. All right, Article 8. This article is allow the town to utilize funds for stabilization fund for capital equipment improvements. Mr. Montori?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This is an annual funding request for capital items that have been listed in the town's capital, five-year capital plan. The $746,270 will come from the town's stabilization fund. Currently, the stabilization fund has a balance of $3,778,789. This funding will support equipment for the DPW, equipment for the fire department, and equipment for the parks, which will be the newly formed facilities and grounds. These are items that have appeared in the past in our capital plan and appear in the FY18 capital plan.
Okay, with that said, do I have any questions on this motion?
Just, Mr. Chairman, through you to the town manager, there are a series of stabilization fund expenditure requests in the next few articles. Of the 3.7 roughly million we have in current funds, what do you have the total of what we're asking the town to withdraw from the stabilization fund on all of the articles in the aggregate?
It's close to $2 million, but if everything is approved at town meeting, the stabilization fund balance will reduce to $1,790,955.
Thank you.
Do I have any other
I'll
questions?
offer a motion, Mr. Chairman, to recommend adoption of Article 8.
Okay, I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second, Mr. Chairman.
We have a motion and a second. Those in favor, please state by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? Chair votes aye as well. It passes 5-0. Article 9. This article is allow the town to utilize funds from the stabilization fund for capital equipment improvements.
This is the school's capital request to be taken out of the stabilization fund based on their capital plan. The items were brought forward by the school administration and school committee, ranging from various maintenance projects to vehicle purchases, totaling $391,564. And I just want to note, Mr. Chairman, that a handout will be available at the end of the week that has more detailed explanations on all these items before town meeting.
I'll make a motion to recommend adoption of Article 9 as presented.
I have a motion. Do I have a second to that?
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All those in favor, please state by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Chair votes aye as well. Passes 5-0. Okay, next article is Article 10. This article allows the town to utilize funds of the stabilization fund to replace the current two set field bleachers, which are partially condemned, and a new home and visitor bleachers, new restrooms, press box, fencing. Funding will also allow for needed site work and demolition of the current bleachers.
This is the final article to transfer money out of the stabilization fund. The $850,000 will, as you mentioned, Mr. Chairman, address bleachers that are in desperate need of being replaced. Part of the bleachers are currently condemned on the home side. And once you take out the bleachers, you're going to end up taking out the press box and the restrooms, so all of that will need to be replaced when we do the work. And depending on how much the bleachers end up costing in the press box and the restrooms, the hope is to do additional site work, some fencing. So these improvements are needed based on the condition of this, the stands down there in the area. So this really is a safety issue.
Is there a time frame for this work if it was to be?
If this gets approved, my guess is the work would start right away and be ready, hopefully for the fall. I think that would be the goal. But it's tough to say how quick they can do it.
All right, do I have any other questions on the board?
I am assuming that you have talked to the school committee and the superintendent about this. They're probably very much in favor of it, considering the safety hazard to the people attending those games.
I have. I've spoken to the superintendent, the business manager, and they've conveyed the school committee's thoughts on the article, so I believe both committee and the administration's in support of this. When I put the article on, because of timing, it just goes under my name, but it's formally coming from the school department and school committee.
Okay. I'll make a motion to adopt Article 10 as presented.
I'll second that motion.
A motion and a second. All those in favor, please state by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Chair votes aye as well, so it passes 5-0. Article 11, this article allows the town to utilize funds raised within the Water Enterprise Fund for capital equipment and improvements.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just one Scrivener's error on this article that will be corrected at town meeting. The Ford 550 rack service vehicle is a 350, not a 550. This money is being raised and appropriated through water rates. It's factored into the water rates that I mentioned earlier that are not going up. The funding, again, is part of the 5-year plan that was presented by the Department of Public Works. We've seen the hydrant replacement and installation program funded each year for our hydrant program, the continuation of designing water distribution upgrades. And Mr. Chairman, I just want to point out that particular one is for Route 38 to make sure we're ahead of any work that's going to be taking place on Route 38, as we've talked about, and then just vehicles and equipment that the department needs.
And I would like to state that I think we've had these conversations before. Because of the drought we've had last year, one of the concerns that I have is that we're going to have a number of fires along where there's trees that are just dying out there. And we have a lot of woods in our communities, so the fact that we're replacing hydrants and having them ready and to go, unfortunately, with the conditions that we had last year and the trees the way they are, I think the fire department's going to have their hands busy this year, and so any kind of work we can do, make sure that we are prepared for that kind of work, I'm in favor of. So unless there's any other questions, I'll listen to any motions on this article.
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion to recommend adoption of Article 11.
I got a motion. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
I got a motion and a second. All those in favor, please state by saying aye.
Aye.
Chair votes aye as well. So that's 5-0. Okay. Article 12. This article allows the town to utilize funds on the sewer retained earnings for capital equipment and improvements.
Mr. Chairman, this is funding being transferred from the balance of sewer retained earnings that we have. The current amount of sewer retained earnings is $3,661,108. This transfer will reduce that amount to $1,843,608. And the funding will be for projects and equipment that have been on the 5-year plan and on the 5-year plan for FY18. The major expense is $1,750,000 to replace and repair a sewer main on Andover Road.
Andover Road?
Yes.
All right. Do I have any
Just a
questions?
question on that.
Yep.
How come this would seek approval if it's right now, if it needs repair? Does it need repair? Why would this have a vote?
It's been studied already, and it's an undersized line, and we're pretty much at capacity. So any future development or connections to it will be problematic, so we want to get ahead of that.
Okay.
So it's something we've been looking at for the last few years, and we're ready to do it.
The time is right?
The time is right, yeah.
Make a motion to approve?
Okay. We have a motion from Mr. Kelly. Do I have a second?
Make a second to recommend adoption of Article 17.
Second from Mr. Gay. All right.
12, I'm sorry.
All those in favor, please state by saying aye.
Aye. You know,
Any opposed? Okay, that carries 5-0. Okay, Article 13. This article transfers funds available from the bond proceeds to reduce the amount of exempt debt services principal.
Mr. Chairman, this is an article that we had on the town meeting warrant last year, and we'll probably have on for the next few years, if not longer. When we refinanced debt this past year, we received bond proceeds from the financial institutions that purchase our bonds. Those bond proceeds get handled in various ways, but the main way is the bond proceeds are to reduce the debt that's been refinanced and that they've gave the bond proceeds for. These bond proceeds are to reduce the exempt debt that we have on the books. If you look at the recap sheet that I provide during the budget process, you can see a reduction in the tax levy because of these bond proceeds. But in order to make it official, we need to go to town meeting and have the funds appropriated to reduce exempt debt service. So that's what this article does, and you'll see it in the future until we spend all those bond proceeds.
Do I have any questions on this motion? With that, I'll listen to any motions.
I'll recommend adoption of Article 13 as presented.
Do I have a second on that?
Second, Mr. Chairman.
I got a motion and a second. All those in favor, please state by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Chair votes aye as well. Passes 5-0.
And Mr. Chairman, just in regard to bond proceeds, when we did the borrowing this past year, we received bond proceeds for refinance debt, and then we received bond proceeds for new debt for Sutton Brook. Those bond proceeds will seek to appropriate at the fall town meeting, because those will get closed out to free cash first. So just
Okay, we're moving on to Article 14. This article allows the town to utilize funds considered surplus from Assessors Overlay Reserve to fund a senior tax relief work program, Veterans Tax Relief Work Program, and allow eligible senior citizens/veterans of the town to work for the town and school offices and receive a reduction to their property taxes.
Mr. Chairman, with great pleasure, I've been on this board when we initiated this program. I know it's been highly well-received by the seniors and veterans of our community, and with pleasure, I'll make a motion to recommend adoption this year.
Okay, I have a motion. Do I have a second to that motion?
Second, Mr. Chairman.
I got a motion and a second. All those in favor, please state by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Chair votes aye as well. Passes 5-0. Excellent. Article 15. This article authorizes the town to borrow $15 million for the cost of the building of a new center fire station.
Mr. Chairman, this is the next step in the process of having funding approved for the for the new center fire station. We were fortunate to have the ballot question approved at the local election. The next step is to have the actual appropriation of $15 million authorized by town meeting. This will require a 2/3 vote, and if approved, we'll complete the process and start moving ahead with the new station.
Do I have any questions to this?
I just have a comment.
Yep.
I believe that we are scheduled for another informational session this Thursday night at 7 PM.
Yes, 7 PM here at the town hall. The fire chief and myself will be available. Not only will a presentation be made, but also to answer any questions or review any comments from residents prior to the vote at town meeting. And it's important to note that it's just the fire station, so it will not be a long night of other presentations, just a discussion on the fire station.
That presentation starts at what time?
7 PM.
7 p.m. Okay.
I would like to move to recommend adoption of Article 15 as presented.
I got a motion to approve. Do I have a second? Second. So I have a motion and a second. All those in favor, please state by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Chair votes aye as well. Passes 5-0. Article 16. According to Chapter 105 of the Acts of 2003, the Tewksbury Affordable Housing Trust Fund is to have an allocation submitted to and approved at the annual town meeting. The 2018 allocation plan meets the expenditure requirements of the Special Act. Disbursements from the Affordable Housing Trust Fund in FY 2017 include $118,736 in support of Tewksbury Housing Authority purchase of 80 Orchard Street and $337,000 for 48 Dewey Street. $54,000 was utilized to assist Tewksbury Habitat build 1057 South Street. There are 3 affordable units at this location.
This is an annual article to just present the Housing Trust allocation plan, what we've done in the past year, and authorizes, the balance and the expenditures to move forward.
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion to recommend adoption of Article 16.
Okay, I got a motion to Article 16. Do I have a second?
Second, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. All those in favor, please state by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? Chair votes aye as well. It passes 5-0. Article 17. Mass General Law, Chapter 44B requires that the town appropriate for spending or reserve for future spending from the fund balance at least 10% for open space, 10% for historic preservation, and 10% for community housing. FYI 2018 historic 10% reserve will be achieved with the town hall rehabilitation bond payment. The total CPA estimated FY18 revenue is $924,997.
There's nothing more to add, Mr. Chairman. It's an annual article.
Mr. Chairman, as your representative on the Community Preservation Committee, I'll offer a motion to recommend adoption of Article
I get
17.
a motion from Mr. Johnson. Do I have a second to that?
I'll second that.
Okay, second. Chronic. All those in favor, please state by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Chair votes aye as well. That passes 5-0. Article 18. Article, the fence at the recreational facility, Frasca Field, needs to be replaced and due to its posing a safety threat. This is to appropriate $115,000 from the Community Preservation Fund for this article. Do I have any?
Mr. Chairman, this is transferring funds from the undesignated reserve for the CPA. That reserve currently has $885,739 in it, but that doesn't count any revenue added to it this year from the taxes or the state. And the project itself is going to be similar to what we did at Livingston Field, where we put all new fencing in, so.
How long those fencing's been up there? It's been up there for quite a while, hasn't it?
If Frasca couldn't even tell you.
Yeah.
Probably
Yeah, all right.
for a while, but it has become a safety issue. We want to not only make it safer, but make it more manageable.
Okay, at this time, I'll entertain any motions on this article?
So, Mr. Chairman, I can tell you as a member of the committee representing the board that this article and the companion articles 19 through 22, actually 23, are all items that have been reviewed by the Community Preservation Committee. Committee voted to support all of them. Obviously requires town meeting support to finalize. So I will certainly offer a motion on behalf of the committee to recommend adoption of Article 18.
And I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second. Mr. Oh, sorry.
Mr. Kelly. All those in favor, please state by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? Chair votes aye as well. Passes 5-0. Article 19, this project will add protection to existing open space.
Mr. Chairman, I'll again offer a motion to recommend adoption of Article 19 to appropriate the sum of $35,000 for open space reserve.
Okay, I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
I got a motion and a second. All those in favor, please state by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Chair votes aye as well. That passes 5-0. Article 20, 2016, the Ella Fleming School received extensive CPA funding work to protect and preserve their building. The current request is to allow the hiring of a design consultant to study reuse of the building while maintaining historical elements. Do I have any questions on this?
No, Mr. Chairman, I'll offer a motion again to support the CPC on this request and recommend adoption of the article.
I get a motion. Do I have a second on this?
Second,
item?
Mr. Chairman.
I get a second. All those in favor, please state by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The ayes have it. I vote 5-0. Article 21. This project will enhance existing trails. It's for $15,000 for Community Preservation Fund's Open Space Reserve.
Again, Mr. Chairman, I'll offer a motion to recommend adoption.
Okay, I have a
I'll
motion.
second.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Okay. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Chair votes aye as well. That passes 5-0. Article 22. This project will allow the town to contract with the firm to apply chemical treatment to the pond to address algae and other water quality issues. This fund will also allow for additional clearing along Whipple Road and Mahoney. The funds is for $23,580 for the Community Preservation Fund.
Mr. Chairman, I will offer a motion to recommend adoption of Article 22 as presented.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
I'll second, and I just want to make a comment that I asked our town manager how long we would need to continue to do this algae, because I know that there was a lot of discussion, but apparently it's working quite well.
It is working quite well.
I just want people to know that it is working, so.
Okay, so I have a motion and a second. All those in favor, please state by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Chair votes aye as well. Passes 5-0. Article 23. This is a precondition of conveying the land that serves as the Livingston Street Recreational Fields, Saunders Recreation Facility. The bids to meet the state standards last summer came in at $300,000 over what was originally appropriated and budgeted.
So, Mr. Chairman, this is an important article that's being presented by the Community Preservation Committee because it would meet our obligations and help us to secure the land that has been long promised to the town through the Commonwealth in our recreational areas. So we had some obligations that the town agreed to, and we need to meet those obligations. So CPC is supporting the article, presenting the article, and I would be happy to make a motion to recommend adoption of the article.
Okay, I have a motion. Do I have a second to that?
Second, Mr. Chairman.
Second. All those in favor, please state by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Chair votes aye as well. Passes 5-0. Article 24. This article would transfer a parcel of land to be used for the building and selling affordable homes. The parcel located at 97 Florence Ave, map 94, parcel 102, is approximately 0.9 acres and valued by the assessors at $171,200 and will be sold through the public procurement process.
Mr. Chairman, this is a house that we have taken by tax title and is available for sale. When the article was written, I wasn't sure if we wanted to do it market or affordable, and we can decide that after the article is passed, but we have that option either or. But we've been successful in the past in selling the houses to nonprofits or the Habitat for Humanity to make them affordable for family affordable, so, but it's an option of the board.
We have a real need for affordable housing in this town, so.
If the board, and we can do it now, if the board would like to just make it affordable and take out market, we can do that.
Well, at this time, I'll listen to motions from, I'll listen to any.
And the program has been successful.
Make a motion to recommend adoption of Article 24.
With taking out market and just having it be affordable?
That's fine.
Is that,
That's fine, I'm throwing it out there as an option. It's been very successful.
I'll amend my motion.
I'll second that.
Well, let me clarify what the motion is. So what is the original motion?
To recommend adoption of Article 24 with the recommendation of the town manager.
Okay.
To remove further, take out for either market, those words, either market or.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay, so I have a motion and a second. All those in favor, please state by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Chair votes aye as well. Passes 5-0. Article 25. This article will transfer control of the Ella Fleming School from the school department to the town of Tewksbury.
Mr. Chairman, this is something I've had discussions with the superintendent of schools, and I know he's spoken to the school committee about whether the school department still has interest in utilizing the Ella Fleming School, and it was determined that they don't have any real use. So in order for that to be transferred back or given to the town for care and custody management, a warrant article is needed at town meeting. So this formally turns the care, custody, and management and control of the Ella Fleming School over to the Board of Selectmen and not the school committee, and will be responsible for the building. So town council has reviewed this, and this is the process he recommended be taken.
Do we have any discussion on this matter?
Just a quick question, what's the plan going forward with it after the town takes ownership of it?
Well, if we're fortunate enough to have the money transferred from the CPA funds to conduct the next study, we'll start looking at the possible reuses, what needs to be done to the building. We've had a nonprofit walk through to see if there's any interest from them. We've talked about maybe having a future cable television studio there. So we have, a lot of possibilities, but it depends on what the architect tells us in the study what can be done. Because we're just not sure. We've secured the envelope of the building, but the inside is a whole different story. So until we understand the structural integrity of the building, things like that, we want to make sure we maintain the historic character too as we do this. There has been interest to create a one-room schoolhouse museum as part of this, so that'll also be considered.
Any other discussion on this matter? That, I'll take any motions.
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion to recommend adoption of Article 25.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Motion and a second. All those in favor, please state by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Chair votes aye as well. It passes 5-0. Article 26. The purpose of this article is to create a bylaw authorizing all revolving funds as required by the amended Massachusetts General Laws, Chapter 44, 53E and a half. The amendments were part of the acts of the Mass Municipal Modernization Act and Finance and Government, Chapter 218, Section 86. Town meeting must still vote on this before July 1st on the amount that may be spent from each fund during the upcoming fiscal year.
Mr. Chairman, this is just following what the new Modernization Act is requiring all towns to do. It's not going to really change how we handle our revolving funds or approve our revolving funds each year. It just formally puts it into a bylaw that we adopt.
Do we have any discussion on this matter?
Make a motion to adopt Article 26.
I have a motion. Do I have a second? Second. I have a motion and a second. All those in favor, please state by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? Chair votes aye as well. It passes 5-0. Article 27. Town bylaws, Chapter 50.9, Civil Fingerprinting Criminal History Check Authorization was adopted at the May 9, 2012 special town meeting. Adoption of this bylaw requires that police department to conduct a state federal fingerprint-based criminal history check for individuals applying for solicitor license. The bylaw further states that the fee charged by the police department for this purpose of conducting fingerprint-based criminal record backgrounds checks shall be $100. 5-09053 fees. The purpose of this article is to create consistency between these two sections.
Mr. Chairman, this article is just to, as it said, bring consistency. We have one section that says the clerk will charge $20 and another section that says the police will charge $100, and we're eliminating the fee for the clerk, just to have that one fee.
All right, do I have any questions or any discussion on this matter? If no, I will listen to any motions.
Make a motion to recommend adoption of Article 27.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
Motion is second. All those in favor, please state by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Chair votes aye as well. Passes 5-0. I believe that takes us to the end of, do 28? through 28.
Yes, 28 was the,
Yes, 28, we already voted.
We already did 28 at the beginning, so, yep. So that finishes the
33 as well.
annual town warrant. Now we can move on to the special town warrant. Okay. Article 1, special town warrant. This article transfers funds from accounts with the projected surplus to accounts with the projected deficit, or to allow, to accounts to allow for the purpose of needed items and services.
Mr. Chairman, this is a standard article that we've had on town meeting, special town meeting, both in the fall and in May, to adjust budgets during the year. In May, we usually adjust these budgets because the finance director and the town departments are projecting deficits in their budgets. And in some cases, there are areas that we want to undertake some new initiatives before the end of the fiscal year. So all the accounts that have money going into them are either accounts that will be in deficit, and in some cases, where their capital outlays budgets, there'll be some one-time capital projects undertaken or new initiatives. The funding sources are from line items or articles that have funding remaining in them that are declared to be surplus and can be utilized to help fund the current FY17 budget. Again, in the handout that will be available for town meeting, there'll be a detailed breakdown of each of the line items that we'll be taking money from, and a detailed breakdown of why we're putting money into certain funds.
Is there any discussion on this? Not, I'll entertain any motions on this article.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion to recommend adoption of Article 1.
I got a motion, do I have a second?
Second.
Motion and a second. All those in favor, please state by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Chair votes aye as well. Passes 5-0. Article 2. This article utilizes free cash certified as of July 1st, 2016 to fund Department of Public Works snow and ice due to the amount of snow and ice events during the winter which exceeded the amount budgeted.
Mr. Chairman, this is again an article that we've had in previous town meetings, depending on the type of winter. So for fiscal 2017, we have expended $773,132.94 more than we had budgeted. We have a budget each year of $256,000, and just by its amount, we normally run into a deficit regardless of the winter. But this year, as we all know, Mr. Chairman, you know more than anybody, it's been a very difficult winter, and we've spent this amount above and beyond our budget. Each year, in accordance with the Board of Selectmen's financial policy, $600,000 in free cash is set aside to address deficits in snow and ice, so that's available in this article to help. There's additional money in DPW highway salaries because of vacancies not filled immediately. That's available to spend. And we had a surplus in a former special town meeting article for the demolition of 984 Main Street, the house that was across from Town Hall. Because of such a good bid and the amount of hazardous material that we needed to take out of there, the bids were much less than we projected. So that funding is available to help the deficit.
I have one question on this. Being the snow and ice guy, I love this stuff. Each year, I know the state, what they do is at the end of the year, they go out in this time of year, and they always go and they purchase salt to fill their bins because they get it at a cheaper cost than when you purchase it in the winter. Has that ever been taken into consideration too?
We try to do the same thing. So part of this deficit is money encumbered, that once all the bills are paid, there will be funding available, and the Department of Public Works will fill its salt sheds.
They'll have them filled for prior, so this way we don't have to worry about whatever it is at the beginning of the year. Okay, that's great news. All right, any other questions on this item?
Make a motion to recommend adoption, Mr. Chairman.
Motion. Do I have a second on that?
Second.
Second. All those in favor, please state by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Chair votes aye as well. Passes 5-0. Okay, we go to Article 3. According to the Mass General Laws, Chapter 44 and 64, bills that are late must be approved by the town meeting before payment. The article authorizes the changes to be paid. Funds are available in the FY17 emergency management salaries, since the position of the emergency manager director is vacant.
Mr. Chairman, these are just bills that came in after the deadline for bills to be paid, and if money's not encumbered in the accounts to pay them, they need to go on the warrant as unpaid bills. All of these bills came in much later than the deadline, and staff was just not aware that they were going to be coming in, so we have money available to pay them. It's a 9/10 vote at town meeting, but we have this type of article on usually in the fall and in the spring.
Any questions on this item?
I like paying our bills. I will recommend adoption of this article as presented.
All right, I have a motion. Do I have a second? Second. Got a motion and a second. All those in favor, please state by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Chair votes aye as well. Passes 5-0. That closes the special town warrant.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, so where are we here? We went through Articles 6, 7, okay, I think we're at the outstanding minutes. I'll turn it over to the clerk.
So, Mr. Chairman, as the previous clerk, I would like to present the March 15th minutes as presented in the agenda for, made as a motion.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, if I may, I'd like to ask the indulgence of my fellow selectmen just to hold on the March 15 minutes till the next meeting. Thank you.
So I will recommend that we table the March 15th meeting, and I will let you know that the March 28th minutes will be available for the May 16th meeting.
Okay.
And Mr. Chairman, I'll have the minutes available from the last meeting, that same next
The
meeting.
April
Yeah.
4th one, that was just a
I'm
quick
right, I'm
meeting,
doing
so
those, yep.
we should have all three.
You'll have them all.
Brought up to, that'll bring us up to date on our next meeting, if that works out
Hold
well.
on.
All right, jumping ahead, Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion to
He has it
accept the
before
April
he was
4th
in there.
meeting minutes.
Yep, I'll second the motion.
Okay, so we got a motion to accept the April 4th minutes, and I get a second. All those in favor, please state by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, so the April 4th reorganization meetings, those are approved. Okay, now we are going to board member reports. I will go to the end of the table. Mr. Johnson?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just one item to report on. The zoning bylaw process review committee met last week and continues to make some progress with the help and assistance of a very capable consultant. The goal, as I've previously represented, of the committee is to hopefully have a proposed plan of action in time for the October special town meeting, but there remains an extensive amount of work to do with the assistance of the consultant. So we continue to meet essentially on a monthly basis, and we have another meeting scheduled in maybe 3 weeks or so from now. Thank you. That's all I have.
Mr. Stronach?
The local housing partnership met on April 12th. At that meeting, as you know, we have been looking to potentially change the configuration of that. The housing partnership did recommend to present to this board a recommendation for a reconfiguration. I would like to have the assistant town manager and myself put that together and actually present that to the board at our next meeting, if that's possible, Mr. Chairman.
So you're asking to put that on the agenda for next meeting?
For the May 16th meeting, not the
16th?
town meeting.
Yeah, no, I understand that.
Yep, that's correct.
Yep.
And I will work with the assistant town manager on that. He was at that meeting as well. The school elementary building committee met yesterday. We have received 10 owner project manager presentations, bids that we're looking at. We are doing our due diligence. We have whittled that down, but again, because of confidentiality, I can't divulge any of the information other than the fact that a smaller subgroup of the committee will be meeting on April 26th to help devise some questions, and we are looking to do interviews on May 4th and May 8th for that process. So it's going very, very well. I already mentioned the fire station and the small business, and I went to the senior center on April 14th for the meeting with a few of my colleagues that were sitting here, and that's a quarterly meeting that the director puts on, and it was very informative. It's the first time that I've been able to attend because it's usually on a Friday during the day, so it was very well attended and a lot of information, So I just want to say thank you to the people who are working on that. That's all I have, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Gay?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I have a couple items that have to do with the Lowell Regional Transit Authority. The town manager had summarized something that the Lowell Regional Transit Authority had to do with the senior center. They, through the State Mobility Assistance Program, have given the Council on Aging a brand-new van. And I want to thank Jim Scanlon for his work, but Ashley Springman had reached out to me to ask if they could keep the old van. And I checked with Jim Scanlon, and he got back to me right away. He's very efficient. He said that they could keep the old van. They're going to partner with the food pantry to use the old van, so both the Council on Aging and the food pantry will utilize that van. And another item from the Lowell Transit Authority, when we talk about, we were talking about bus depots or bus shelters on Route 38. Jim Scanlon came with me to do a site visit in front of Market Basket, and he got in touch with the people at Market Basket, and they have agreed to put a shelter out beside where the McDonald's is, but on Main Street in front of the Market Basket. They're going to start work on that in the middle of the month, March 15th, and so, again, I want to thank Jim Scanlon for his work, May 15th, for his work on putting that together. He's very proactive, and he got in touch with the appropriate people at Market Basket and jumped right on it, so and his expediency has been welcomed with when he doesn't just talk the talk, he walks the walk. So at some point in time, there'll be a shelter. We did take a site visit at the one further down across from Walmart, and we haven't come to a determination on that one yet. But we figure we'll do one at a time and see where we go from there. But again, I think that'll be very welcome. I see shopping carts tipped over on Main Street, which looks awful, and people sit on there waiting for the bus. So this should be well utilized, and it's appropriate to have it there. And with that, that's it. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Mr. Kelly?
Just a few items, and directed to Mr. Montori. I know you've been actively working these, so just seeking updates for the May 16th Board of Select meeting, Mr. Montori. One was around the traffic studies for, I believe it was Andover Street, and I've got some calls from residents regarding Shawshene Street, just to get a status update to where we're at with the, I believe it's under survey, or the survey might be complete. So that's one item. And the second one was around the South Street, Salem Road and Main Street intersection, safety improvements, just seeking an update there as to next steps and where we're at with the process, that's all.
No problem.
All right, thank you.
Okay. The only thing I have on, well, we got the beautification committee is going to have their cleanup day. Actually, I'd like to thank everybody. The rail trails, there was a number of community groups that got together. I think it was the Garden Club, Rotary, a number of groups got together, and they went out for Earth Day, and they did their nice little cleanup in town. Cleaned up a lot of the rail trails, did some work around town. But the next cleanup day is scheduled for Saturday, May 6th, which is coming up very quickly. I did notice that Mass DOT was out today sweeping all the sidewalks with their push brooms, and then they had the sweepers going up and down 38. So that was nice to see them start going as we're going along. So as we incorporate this, it'll just be working together. I think the reason that we're going up and sweeping is because that's usually the first step before they go out and they start doing, they'll finish the potholes, and then they'll do the pavement markings. They won't put the pavement markings down until everything's swept and I think that is a plan for the, coming very shortly. But put that together with what the beautification committee will be doing, you know, that will make the town look that much nicer as we're going along. So if anybody's available to join us, we always get more and more volunteers each year. People are surprised at the stuff that we find out there. There's a lot of trash to be found out there. So anybody willing to volunteer, there's a sign-up sheet, there's a sign-up genius, and there's if you go to the town website and the beautification committee, they have that information available. And that's all I have. So at this point, I'll take any motions to adjourn.
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
Motion to adjourn, do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, all those in favor said aye? Aye. Okay, motion passed. Good night, everyone.
Thank you, everyone.
Yep.
Take care.